preparing. Okay. And we're live. Hello,
Woohoo.
hello. I'm gonna Slack it or send you the if you want to throw that out on. I need to get logged into our Twitter account on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Let's see. You said Slack.
I've said Slack, but I actually meant chat here, so
Oh, even better.
okay, cool.
Chat. Copy
Awesome.
link. So not prepared. Been doing 10 other things today.
I know that feeling. I wrote articles, none of which, none of for here, but for my day job. Posted all kinds of stuff online, managed socials, meetings, all of the works. You know how it goes.
Absolutely. World of marketing, a WordPress. I'll get tune in. WordPress, build it public, indie hackers. That's a hashtag that's been dropping, and now it's pretty much
Oh,
gone.
really? Oh, wow. That's not good. Excuse me.
And then to at Corey Moss and at what's her name?
Me, Michelle Ames on Twitter, anyway.
You? Who? What?
Me? Nobody cares.
Please. You're the power behind all of it, I think.
The power. No, I know nothing. I'm just a pretty face.
There we go. All right. Posted
Cool.
notifications. So cool to see your pictures from WordCamp Asia popping up, all the selfies.
Oh, isn't that fun? All right. Reposted. And let's see. Copy link, get a repost over at post status as well. All the places, all the
Oh,
things.
I forgot to tag post status. All right.
I know how to do it. We're good. I got
Cool.
it. We're all set. All right. Hi. Welcome
Hello,
back.
hello.
Starting with our little all the little things that we have to do. The problem
Yeah,
is if anybody is watching this, the problem or challenge is that we don't have a YouTube link to share until we actually connect Zoom to YouTube. So the first
right.
couple minutes are working on all those details, but thanks for hanging in with us. And welcome back to another Marketing in Public for OMG IMG.
Well, and as I've mentioned before, this is or the disclaimer I give like on our podcast page on omgimg.co is the because we are live, like this is straight up real. It's full of ums and ahs and false starts and stuttering and uh we just
All
hope
of
that we
those
don't
things.
put our foots in our mouths too often, essentially.
Michelle tries not to have a potty mouth for this hour. Because I swear like a sailor the rest of the time.
I mean, fuck
It's
that.
I know. So somebody heard me swear in a podcast once, and they messaged me afterwards. They're like, "I didn't know you knew how to swear." I'm like, "Oh fuck yeah!" So if we offended anybody just now, too bad,
Yeah.
too bad. So sad.
Sorry. I do try to reserve it. There's times when I get worked up and there's times like
Oh yeah,
it's fun to use strategically and we all have days where it's every other word that
yeah,
comes out of our mouths because we're just in a
yeah.
mood. But somebody did like when I moved to Nashville, I had a new friend who pulled me aside and he's pretty quickly and he's like, "Look, I'm going to tell you what I tell all of my other friends who come from the north. Just because somebody speaks slowly does not mean that they are not intelligent.
True.
And two, if you swear like a northerner, there are a lot of people who will just tune you out. And so if
Yeah,
you want to make a point, if you're from Boston, you say the F word every other word, and that's how
yeah.
like when I lived in Spain, I learned about like a whole different method of arguing, and it was just the loudest person wins.
Yeah,
You know, it just got louder and louder and louder, and some
that is
people
so
said that that
funny.
was cultural. And I came home and realized that in New England, often the person who swears the most wins the argument.
Yep.
Um, but
I'm a
so that's
I'm a New
some
York
adjusting.
I'm a New Yorker and a woman, which means that you as a woman you never win the argument unless you are really surreptitious about it because men don't listen. No, I'm kidding. Some men do,
I'm sorry,
but
what?
exactly. Stereotypically, I will say we're making strides as women in WordPress and in tech, but still we are
Hmm.
the quiet majority in a lot of respects. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway.
Which is why I give you credit for actually being the decision maker behind most of what goes on. You
Yeah.
should be out front, or should acknowledge that you're the
Sometimes
decision maker. Anyway,
we have to move quietly in the background and let people think it was their idea. So, yeah.
absolutely.
And sometimes I open my mouth and get in trouble because I get ideas and I just tweet them and then suddenly I've got projects happening. But I have
New
had new
whole Slack
projects.
communities under your.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing, like those ideas have been in my head forever and I didn't have the capacity to make them happen.
Yeah.
So putting it out publicly, now there's dozens of people who are trying to actually make those things a reality. And I just sit and nod. So, I mean, was it actually a bad thing? Nope.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm as has been discussed quite a bit uh on many podcasts and on this one, I get an idea and I do, for better or worse, have the dev chops to like go make something
Make
happen.
things
And so
happen.
I've
Yeah,
got um, you know, already twice this year I've taken a domain that I already owned and was like, I'm gonna finally do something with this, and then was distracted for a week or a weekend or whatever. So,
exactly.
but I mean,
Exactly.
more ideas, and your ideas tend to be more community
Community minded. Yeah.
minded, and yeah, there might be an opportunity for monetization, but I'd rather see them exist, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And my idea originally was just to hand the project off, but then so many people wanted to participate, and I had more ideas than just the one that I'm
Right.
like, even if we get sponsorship, I'm not sure how to divvy up the money. So let's just do it and have fun with it and yeah, see
Well,
what
that's
happens.
and that's why you and I are working together, and why Corey and I were working together. It's like
Hmm.
let's build it and see,
Yeah.
and then
And hope it
I'm
monetizes and we can pay
well, that's
ourselves
it.
and retire someday.
That's it.
It'll be
I mean,
awesome.
and there's it's the trust part that I hadn't thought about that, like between you and I or between myself and Corey, it's easy enough to trust, right? Um,
Yeah, because
it's
we're
it's in
known
our
entities to
natures,
each other.
right? Exactly. Versus like it hadn't occurred to me that by starting a new big project with a whole bunch of people, um, but it's a fascinating experiment. Like I make sure you
Yeah.
document it, if nothing else.
I
Um,
should because I'm giving all these people I don't know admin access to brand new websites and trusting that the good things are going to happen, you know? So
and
we'll
that's
see what
why I think
happens.
it'll be amazing. Like even if it crashes and burns, like
What a cool experiment.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you can always take the domain and go elsewhere, like start
true.
over.
True.
uh,
True. Yeah.
Find new earth to scorch.
Exactly.
Um,
Where can I cause some chaos next?
yeah. So speaking
Well,
of, where can we cause chaos next? I
yes.
have uh applied to yeah, I essentially now have confirmation to speak at a couple of meetups.
Mine is one of
Your
them.
meetup, yep, your meetup. And I drove down to the Keen WordPress meetup, um, nicely hosted by people who I should be giving a shout out to. Um, so I will look them up real quick.
Sure.
Um, um,
While you're looking that up, I'll talk about the fact that you started a doc for you and I to work on what should be included in those presentations. I did make one or two tiny little notes. I haven't had a lot of time to go back and do it, um, but I wanted you to know I saw it, so I made a note. And I'm excited about where you're going with it. I think it's going to be a
Yeah,
good presentation. My biggest thing, and we talked about this, I think, last week, and we've talked about it offline for sure, is that so there's two things that go into presentations. One is just because it's the right way to do it, and the other is because it's required of a certain type of behavior, which is when you present at a meetup or when you present at a WordCamp, your topic is not a sales talk, right? So
right.
taking this dog and pony show on the road doesn't mean that we are marketing it per se. It's a byproduct. People will learn about it because we're there. But the primary reason for doing it is um, to teach and instruct about
Right.
what we're doing with it as opposed to what it is. So for example, you'll use the words open graph at the Rochester one and people like the eyes are going to look like, what the heck are you talking about? We'll talk a little bit about that so people understand what does that even mean and why is it important?
Exactly.
And then why a good featured image makes sense and all of those different things. So that'll be awesome. Looking forward to that for sure. And then I think too, like we had talked about this last time, is the idea of doing a talk about building in public, marketing in public, like having this be such a transparent process, for the most part. Obviously, there are some things that are, we're not talking finances and stuff like that on a weekly basis, but the process being transparent and open for people to be able to see the good, the bad, the ugly, right, together is, I think that'd be a fascinating topic for a word camp, to be able to present that at some point. So, and I think
Yeah.
there will come a time when that's available, when the stars will align for you to be able to stand on a stage, someplace accessible to you, and be able to kind of share that story. And I will be in the
Yeah.
front row taking pictures. So I
Oh. Um, yeah, so over the weekend we got a huge snowstorm
saw that.
and uh took pictures of myself coincidentally wearing a Beaver Builder t-shirt.
I saw
And
that.
so I well no, oh no, it's the wrong context. Wrong context. Sorry. But shout out to Beaver Builder. So before I forget, the meetup in Keene, very
Oh,
nicely
yes.
hosted by Paragon Digital.
Oh, nice.
Um
Is that New
yeah,
Hampshire?
Paragon Digital, yeah, Keene, New Hampshire. Um, very cute little town. Speaking of expletives, there is a pho place in Keene, and so they called themselves Pho King Great.
That's hysterical.
It's
That is hysterical. That is beautiful.
best title
That
ever.
is, yep.
It's such a deep pun on so many
There-
levels. Anyway,
There's
but yeah,
a
so shout. Go ahead.
there's a Thai restaurant in Rochester, THAI, Thai Me Up.
Love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
You made me think of that just now.
Um, But yeah, no. Oh, so we had a classified in the WP Minute newsletter
Yes.
last week.
Yes, I was going to
Um,
bring that up on screen actually. So I'll share my screen. You could talk about
awesome.
it.
Um,
Your
that
screen.
you wrote some clever copy, and I doubled down on said clever copy,
Yes, you did.
and um, and then I tweeted about it, saying I'm very proud of the copy. Let's make sales copy more entertaining, and
Yeah.
then used two nonsense words, advertainment and
Yes.
entertisement, both of which I think
Advertisement.
are so stupid. Um, but
They're stupid enough
that's
to be funny.
exactly. And that's kind of in the same vein as what you're talking about. Years
Yeah.
ago, I held a meetup, organized a meetup in New York City, and was lucky enough to get I'm sorry, I don't remember her position, but a person from Indiegogo.
Okay.
I would have speakers come in, right? And if they were related to some sort of product or service, I was very adamant, beat them over the head, like you can't just do a sales call, sales presentation. And she did a great presentation that was like the perfect line where she's like, you know, here's how you optimize a campaign on Indiegogo. Indiegogo being like Kickstarter, whatever.
Hmm.
And it was great because it was like you could apply these principles to Kickstarter as well, but obviously it spoke perfectly to she had insider knowledge, right? And it's one of those things that the reason to get on stage, or often what I have found how I end up on stage when I used to do present at WordCamps, at least half a dozen times a year, was the based on the authority that I had acquired, sometimes incidentally, just by doing what I do. And so,
Hmm.
like you just said, um, whether I like it or not, I have become an authority is pretty grand, but very knowledgeable about Open Graph and image optimization and how SEO plugins, why they choose which image they choose, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, and then by living a build in public experience for more than a year, I now can speak to that.
Yeah.
And so part of why I bring all that up is for the four people who will watch and listen and hear this, um, you know, go get on podcasts, go, you know, it's scary. I hear you with that, and getting on stage and being speaking, public speaking and all that kind of stuff. But um so often I hear people going, I don't know what I'd talk about. It's like, talk
Yeah.
about your experience that you've either shared and nobody else is talking about, or that is ever so slightly unique to you, and so you can share it with other people for their
Right.
benefit.
What's really cool
Um,
about podcasts too is you don't have to know what you're going to talk about. This is going to sound stupid, right? You have to have an idea of what you do, right? You have to be able to answer questions. When you go
yeah,
on somebody else's podcast, it's their job to ask you questions that you can answer. So it's not like you just go there and you go, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Because if they're a good podcast host, they've already thought about that in advance. And so like I have a bunch of podcasts. My very first podcast that I was a guest on, I was nervous too because I'd never done it before. I had no idea what was going to happen. It turns out it's just like a freaking Zoom call where you're talking to the person on the other side of the
exactly.
computer. And so like I invited somebody to be on WP Coffee Talk, and she said, I'm kind of nervous about it, but I know you, and talking to you will be easy. I said, exactly. Every person that comes on my
Exactly.
podcast afterward says, I don't know why I was so nervous. It's just talking to you, Michelle. Like that's what a podcast is. So
Right.
yeah.
And yeah, and being whenever I've interviewed people in podcasts that I used to have, there was I was I'm luckily I don't get nervous speaking publicly, but I was always very on edge in a good way because you never listen so hard as when you're hosting a podcast, because you're trying, it's your job to find a kernel in whatever they just talked about to continue the conversation.
Yes,
And I love that. I mean, and that's part of the fun part of it, and where I always would get value is I might be out driving in my car listening to a podcast, and I might or might not actually be paying attention to what these people are saying. But if I'm the one hosting it, I'm catching every single word, because that's kind of your job.
exactly. Exactly. And you were on our podcast at Stellar WP, our WP Constellations podcast. And a good podcast host is also going to prep you. They're going to send you the questions in advance.
Yeah,
Does that mean that's the whole conversation? Of course not, right? That you're going to ask deeper questions, you're going to have conversation about things, but you should have some kind of a plan from the podcast host that says, this is what we want to talk about. This is how we're going to
yeah,
work through these 30
exactly.
minutes or whatever. And so it shouldn't be a scary thing. Yes, it's going to your first time because you've never done it before, but I promise you it should not be a scary thing once you get into the groove.
Yep,
For sure.
yep. So
So
yeah,
I
with all
have
that
this.
said,
I know. So I love that Matt Medeiros and the WP Minute put out this call for classifieds. And I think it's 140 characters. So it's like the original Twitter, right? Like you have to craft these very carefully if you want to say anything, really. And so I teased him months ago when he put it out there that I was gonna like put out like a looking for love kind of thing, like, hey, my name's Michelle, you might have seen me around the place, a single white female, like that kind of thing, right? Like the old um classifieds in the newspaper or even on
Yep.
Craigslist. Is Craigslist?
Or
I don't know.
missed
I think
connections or any of
yeah, on the
those.
Craigslist misconnections, all that kind of thing. And so obviously I wasn't really going to do that. I mean, yes, I'm on the dating apps, but I wasn't going to use Facebook or the WP Minute for that. So, but when I thought about what it's, he only charges $15 a week and you could do 4 weeks for $50. We leaned into it once. We thought, let's try it. Let's see what it looks like.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to take this because it's you and me. It's not like Stellar WP where there's a million people in marketing and decisions have to be made across weeks and that kind of thing, right? So the bigger the company, the harder it is, of course. It's just you and me. We can be as
Have
silly
fun
or
with it.
creative as we want to and have fun with it. Exactly. And so I'm gonna read it. I love how you changed up some of the words to make it even better. So it's the name of the company, OMG IMG, and it does have a link through to make a purchase. And then it says, our eyes met across a crowded word camp. You purred, how do I make featured images better? I replied, omgimg.co. Get 30% off WPMIN 0324. And I mean, OmniSend, love it. They're just like 30% off the first 3 months, $3,000 worth of migration, offer code only woo. Come on, who's has got a little more personality?
Right. Yeah. And it's like an Easter egg. And I think we want to
It is.
do, I mean, again, advertainment or whatever, like
Yeah.
let's have fun with this. We can. Like you said,
Yeah.
this is our thing, so we can kind of do what we
Yep.
want with it. Um
Exactly.
and yeah, and I think I think you and I have talked about this a little bit. Um I have a long list of newsletters that I want to sponsor. We've sponsored a few. We had a very boring ad run in Dense Discovery, so I'm actually gonna message them and say, hey, before because I think I bought a few of them,
Mhm.
um, one every couple of months, and see if we can zhuzh the copy in the same vein. Um, and a couple of others. It was like at Christmas, a couple of these newsletters said buy a membership and you'll get a break on the cost of the classifieds. A couple of them just ran specials on classifieds, buy now for the rest of the year kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I have a long list because of newsletters. Ultimately, as revenue continues to grow, we don't have a lot, but to me, that's worthwhile. One, I feel like we're making friends.
Yeah.
Two, connections, networking, yada yada. But it's like, and two, it puts us in interesting places. Again, like I've mentioned a bunch of times, I have this real, it's not fear, but like apprehension that we're missing the forest for the trees
Mhm.
because we're such WordPress insiders.
Right.
And I don't mean to speak for you, but like this is what I talked about with Corey a lot
Mhm.
of like, I don't know what a regular person looks like anymore, to be
Right.
honest. And so I feel like reaching smart, tech savvy-ish people through newsletters that aren't WordPress specific
Mhm.
is a good way to test the waters.
I think
Um,
so too.
and promote and help support some of these newsletters. And a lot of them newsletters to me, I think, are one of the people talk about how email is still a sacred thing, and I think that's true. And there's definitely people who will subscribe to things and then just let it go by.
Yeah.
But two things will happen. One, um, people will either unsubscribe, three things. Two, they'll use a service to unsubscribe, or three, what I think again normal people don't realize, but um, the more a newsletter is not opened, one, your numbers look worse, and two, you actually can get penalized. You can start to look like spam and stuff like that. And so, if you're using a Mailchimp or a Mailjet or Email Octopus or any of them, um, you are strongly encouraged to call your list, clean your list
Mhm.
regularly. And I actually just did this recently for myself for my music mailing list. But
Mhm.
going in and because you can search, you can say like what users have not opened it in the last 5. It's like, okay, well then wipe them, take them off the
Yeah.
list.
Let's stop spamming them.
Um,
Yeah.
stop. Yeah, exactly. You'd like to think it's not spam, but they might view it as such. Um,
Exactly. We don't see it
And
that way, but we've all gotten those newsletters where eventually we haven't opened it long enough that it feels like spam, even if there's good kernels of information in there.
yeah, yeah, it's annoying. Like that's it's rather than it
Yeah.
technically being spam, it's the it has that annoyance effect. And so anyway,
Well,
yeah, I
yeah, and you kind of feel bad after a while. Like you'd rather unsubscribe than feel bad that they see that you don't open it. Because then, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, look, Michelle didn't open that email again this week. Oh, she
again,
unsubscribed. Okay, well, at least
I
that's
think that's
once.
a sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's okay. It's like it's pulling the band-aid off versus like an inch at a time every week.
Right. But it's stuff like this that I think again non-techie people, like people who are not sending out mailing lists don't know about this stuff. But
Right.
um, and anyway, I think that's to me that's I suspect better than a lot of other techs that this is why newsletters are still a good place to
Yeah.
advertise.
I think so too. I also think though, like, not to put down OmniSend, their message was great and they probably got some hits on that because people are interested in their product and whatever. But I really and truly believe that brands should have voices that
Yeah,
resonate with the community. And I think that either a sense of humor, somehow pulling on heartstrings, right? Whether it's to make somebody laugh, to make them feel joy, to make them feel loved, like whatever that is. And I think of those commercials that, like, especially like I don't watch a lot of commercials because I stream everything now. But I go
like
in
all of us.
search of, right? Yeah, but I go in search of some commercials by brands that I really enjoy, like Etsy, for example. Etsy never puts out a commercial that doesn't make you go, "Aw," at the end of it. Like it's that kind of thing, right? So I will go look for Etsy commercials because I know they're going to make me cry in a good way. I think of over the years, like, okay, I was around when the not Pepsi, the Coca-Cola, like I'd like to teach the world to sing. I saw those ads as a child when they were first on TV. Those ads made you want to grab a Coca-Cola, sit on a hillside with people that you knew and sing songs with them, right? Like those are the kinds of advertising and that's the kind of messaging in marketing that I really think people will gravitate towards. And you're filling a need or you're filling a want, but you're also doing it in a way where they see themselves using your product. And so
Yep.
anybody who has a sense of humor at all about classified ads would read that and think that's funny. And
Right.
if they know it's you or me, like they might not know it's you or me at that point, right? But if they know it's you or me, they just heard my voice or your voice read that to them as well. I wrote a book. People tell me all the time, they read my book, they hear my voice reading the book to
Absolutely.
them, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And so that's the kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be tied to you or me, but it needs to be tied to a voice that speaks for the product.
Yeah. Yeah. And more and more so. Um, Corey and I, when we were first fleshing out the homepage, tried to make sure that the copy was interesting and creative. Why wouldn't we take that through to advertisements?
Hmm.
Um, I think of I think of Mad Men. They describe how advertising changed in the 60s, and there were the new kids, late 60s, didn't want to be sold to. They
Right.
everything was just a vibe, man, or whatever the terms they were using. And
Hmm.
so it was like there was an ad that, it was like just a good song and people just like hanging out and it never actually mentioned the brand. I was like, it's just interesting. Like thinking about, and one of the things that I'm struggling with right now is, and everybody is, frankly, like you see a thread all the time, like at least once a month on Hacker News, like what happened to the good old internet when it was interesting, when everything wasn't homogenized and
Yeah.
syndicated, or funneled into Facebook, Twitter. Um, and so like I've been redesigning my um, me as a freelancer webpage, and then I'm also trying to redesign me as a musician webpage. And it's like I can't help but start with a hero at the top with a picture of
Right.
me and some sort of call to action. And
Yeah.
then three columns of what are the features of me as a freelancer or
Yes.
me as a
Yes.
musician, yawn. Um, And so trying to find anything different. I mean, it's the
Hmm.
grid is the grid. Like I've got, where'd they go? All these design books that I normally have next to me, um, and that talk about the grid. I'm a huge fan of like the classic Swiss style design, 100% grid. I've got Bauhaus posters behind me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I love a grid, but there's ways to do it that are interesting and creative. I and
Hmm.
everybody miss the web that where it was a canvas. Um, and we don't all need to go crazy or back to that necessarily, but I do think that there's a place now for being weird and different.
Right.
Um, in this case with words, sometimes with design.
I love the rule of thirds. So as a photographer, I love the rule of thirds, right? Like you never just put something smack dab in the middle of a landscape picture unless you really have a reason to do it. The rule of thirds makes things more interesting. I think that applies to words too. Like a little off center makes sense if you're going
Yeah,
to actually like call attention. Now, sometimes that's done in a very poor way and it turns people against you. If you do it right, you're a little off center because people identify with not being right smack dab in the middle. They feel a little off kilter. Everybody, you don't feel like I don't want to be the normal average person. I'm a little off center. And so if you
yeah,
can appeal to that with words like you can in imagery, I think that you make a better connection with people. Now,
irreverent.
irreverent. Oh, that's a good word. So one of the things that we talked about last week was the stickers. Do you have
Hmm.
the stuff up? Can you share screen and show? Like I love the back of the sticker and what we're doing with
Oh
it.
yeah.
And can you show a little bit about how we're gonna use our sticker campaign? Because I think that that's really brilliant.
Yeah. So my sticker order is on its way. So I
Yay.
think it was
Which means you have to get some to me in time for WordCamp Buffalo so I can hand them out on May the 4th.
totally. Um, Somewhere here. I sent you screenshots.
You did. I also think it's hysterical that my cat photobombed that picture and I didn't even notice it. You sent me like this little extreme close up of her in the corner, like, what are you doing? Waving at yourself on the computer screen. That was funny. But I
So
like
I
that
have
picture
the
so much, I sent it to my daughter. I was like, look, I look nice in this one. Oh, I sound like a smoker when I cough right now because I've got this leftover bronchitis. Every time I cough, I sound like my grandmother.
She was a lovely woman, so that's okay.
She was, but
Um,
smelled like a chimney.
yeah. All right, sharing. I don't know how to do this nicely. That's the problem.
I don't do it nicely.
Yeah.
Do it raw and real.
Minimize. But anyway, yeah, the what came up was here we go. Share somewhere. Share screen. Preview. Share.
I see it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
For,
this is the fun part of following threads. Go ahead.
So I mean, I love that it's the prism behind it. Like it doesn't look like prismic because it's a flat image right now, but it's shiny and it actually is prismatic, which is so
Right.
cool.
And so yeah, so Sticker Mule had specials last year, so we got, 50 of each kind and following your thread and my experience too at WordCamp US, if nothing else, people want stickers for their kids. And so they're like um the holographic ones are the most popular because
Hmm.
they're, just like
They're
when we were
shiny.
kids, like shiny and weird and different and cool and but I actually love that the rainbow that they put off actually fits with our branding.
Me too.
Um and then uh I realized as I had started to get excited about going to some word camps, I was like, oh, I don't have OMG business cards. And I've been starting to use QR codes more. And I don't know where I got the idea, um, but said, oh, the QR code should not just link to the homepage. Like, let's have it linked to something good or something
Yeah,
unique or
you
something
said let's have fun with it is what you told me.
right.
Yeah.
Um, and so like on the business card, I linked to a page that is not just the OMG IMG homepage, but it's like /team/query or something.
Hmm.
So has a picture of me. Hi, you just met me. Here's a contact form so that will send an email directly to me. Um, Oh, well, it's just it's advertising, right? Like
Hmm.
when you run an ad that says like don't use them, use us, it should take you to a page when you click on the ad, it should take you a page that lists the benefits of you over your competitor, right? It's like just more relevant. But why shouldn't we do that with everything? So
Right.
on the back of the business card links to a Corey page, and so back of the sticker, um, links to a QR code that says, wait, what's this? Something secret from OMG IMG. And then again, takes you to a page that talks about like, oh, you just got a sticker from us. Do you want a discount code? And you came up with the great idea, taking it a step further of like, let's
I
put a
love our
poll.
synergy.
Yeah,
This is fun.
let's put a poll on the page that says, well, who did you get the sticker from? And so now we have a page that has a picture of the two of us waving and buttons that are like, I got it from Michelle or I got it from Corey.
Can you show that page
Excuse
too?
me. Yeah.
I really
Uh,
like it.
yeah. And so it's like, but the only thing I'm scared of is like these are great ideas. And I think, um, but I'm scared that like it's gonna take so long for for us to have enough customers that all this stuff is actually going to get
We got to
used.
start somewhere. So I think it's a
Absolutely.
good it's a grassroots type thing, right? Like handing out stickers with a QR code on the back, that's grassroots. That's not mass marketing. So that's where
Right.
we're starting with that niche person to person, hand them something. And when you hand it to them, and you're not gonna just gonna hand it to them and let them discover it. You're gonna be like, make sure you check out the QR code on the back, right?
Right. Exactly.
Look
So,
at that. Look how cute we are. I love that.
yeah.
And then when you click it, that's gonna, give you the opportunity to claim the coupon and it's gonna put you into oh, you fixed it. It actually works?
No, no, not yet.
Okay.
But two things. So again, the
Yes.
like build on the build on the build, right? So it
Yep.
will have a counter, obviously. So click on Corey and it'll increment. But I had forgotten that I built somebody else built it first. But if you remember from the Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, when you jumped and hit the block or whatever, or where there's a coin, it goes ding,
Ding,
and
ding,
and
yeah.
it does a little
Animation.
something came out of the block, yeah, an animation that
Okay.
goes up and it fades away, right?
Yes.
And somebody did this for like if you clicked on a button, it would say +1 and basically rise and fade away.
I
And
like that.
so like ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding. So I think I'm gonna try to add that kind of animation because it's
Oh
it's
my
kind of like
gosh.
uh like people have been adding confetti, right? So it's like when you
Hmm.
purchase, you get confetti, anything to make people feel good about
Yeah.
the purchase they just made or the action they just took. So I'm gonna look at adding that, and I think um, don't tell anybody because somebody will do this before I get a chance. Um, but I think I'm gonna make that library public because it wherever it was it disappeared, and I recently
Hmm.
found the one that I made. And so put that on GitHub. But I also might try to make it into a WordPress plugin similar to the
Oh
confetti
yeah.
one, where it's like give any button a class and click on the button and then it goes bing,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
does the
I
little
like
animation. Again, just flair essentially.
I like that a lot, actually. And I love this. What the one thing we haven't discussed yet is what the prize will be. So, and when that is determined. So you and I have to figure that part out. Like, if you win, what do you want? And if I win, what do I want? And how do we make that
Absolutely.
happen?
Yep.
So,
Yep. I
but
I buy you a beer or you buy me a beer
I mean, I
or
was thinking dinner at a word camp, but
right. Right. Yep.
it'd be fun. It's fun. It's just a way. I like gamification. I think it makes
Eh,
things fun, especially when it doesn't cost somebody to participate and have fun with it, right?
right. And they feel more involved
Mhm.
and and I and I think this might have even come out of your and my discussion of I know you're a big fan of creative 404 pages.
I am.
Um, and so I'm really intrigued by the idea of an interactive 404 page. Like I've seen creative ones, interesting ones. I mean, they get if a company does it right, it gets put on Hacker News or it gets put on Reddit.
Right.
Here's an interesting 404 page, but I don't mean to not give credit where credit's due. I'm sure somebody out there is doing this, but I've never seen a 404 page that gives a discount code or that other,
Hmm.
they'll solicit for an email, but like I want to do this kind of thing where it's like, you know,
Easter eggs.
some sort of Easter
Hmm.
egg, but interactive of like click on a button or, do or play a little game and get a
Hmm.
30% discount. It's like,
Yep.
imagine if all of a sudden our 404 page like got traffic because somebody was like, oh, if you
Yeah.
want 25% off, like go hit a bad
Ha
URL on
hack
this
their
website.
404. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
like just again, play with this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
why
And those
not?
are the things that delight people, right? So, the first time I ever even learned about customizing 404 pages was years ago. There's a TED Talk by a man named Rennie Gleason. It's 4 minutes and 4 seconds long. He timed it perfectly. And it's about how you can delight your customers when it gets messed up, right? So whether they messed it up or you changed a URL and didn't, forward it or whatever, or look, we got a different camera on you now. Um,
Oh,
that
shoot.
it's switched somehow. But I see your posters. Those are cool. But like they were running what do you call it? Incubator. And so they had like 4 or 5 different groups, and they said whoever comes up with the best 404 page wins $404 in this incubator. And these teams got crazy busy with some amazing ideas. One that it's been a year since I've seen it. Like there's bicyclists, and one goes down, and then the others just like start like they can't avoid it. So they're in this giant bicycle pileup. And he's like, yep, that's what it feels like when you hit a 404, right? So like it feels bad. How can you make it delightful instead? And so I have been putting together 404 pages that should delight people. And I can help come up with some concepts for ours. So that when they land on it, it's something fun. But it should be something fun. It should not feel like you just got stuck. When Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump for president, her 404 page had an animated GIF of when she tried to walk through the turnstile of like a subway or something, only her token didn't take. And so she bumps into the turnstile and can't go through it. And that was her 404 page. She had fun with it. And they were like, probably not where you wanted to end up either. Here's some links that might be where you want to start again, kind of thing. And on his 404 page, it was like page not found.
Right.
I showed everybody her 404 page. I didn't show anybody his, right? Other reasons. But like, how often do you share a 404 page? But when
Right.
you come across a 404 page that makes you laugh and engages with you, you're like, oh my God, I got to show a friend. Look at this 404 page. And so I think that that's a way to just give a little Easter egg and delight people for sure.
You'll forgive the obvious gender bit of this, but I had a buddy in college and we would talk about the musicians that we liked. And his phrase was um was I bet he's a bro. And what he meant by that was like he's a buddy, he's somebody I can relate to. Like
Yeah.
it was, and the way he finally defined it was he's like, it's somebody I'd want to have a beer with. So
Yep.
like Beck, he's like, I don't like Beck's music. It's weird. This is a guy who liked very like poppy music. He's like,
He's my
Beck's music's
cousin.
too weird. But
Beck is
but I
Beck is my cousin, by the way. Did you know that? Yeah. Anyway, sorry I interrupted your story, but we'll talk about that later.
I'm speechless now. This is like on what's her name? Donna on Parks and Rec who reveals that her cousin is genuine
Oh
and
yeah.
uh and Tom Haverford, who's a huge fan of R&B, like loses his mind. Yeah. I was a huge fan of Beck, although like there was a contest in the 90s and we were given the stems of one of his songs to remix, and supposedly Beck heard them all, but had he actually heard them all, he would have chosen mine. but
course.
he didn't. So I know he didn't. So I actually like I have a bone to pick with him when if I ever run into him at a party. Um, but anyway, but yeah, it's like all of these things add personality, and
Right.
from a marketing standpoint, which people go ick and ew, but like it makes you like people, right? And it's it took me years to get over the ickiness I felt around promotion, networking, marketing,
Hmm.
sales, any of this stuff. Like it's just life. Like, and it's just how you have to do stuff. And you can, I was talking to oh, my mastermind group last week where I was like, you choose your own line that you cross or don't cross. And that's
Right.
okay. But uh, but some amount of it you just have to get over. And again, like I bringing this all the way back around to like one of our first topics this hour was you can just by being present, you are marketing, sales, whatever. Like
Hmm.
wear a t-shirt that has your logo on it and then go do a talk about something completely unrelated, but it's educational, relevant, yada yada, right? And and I would hope that you would be comfortable with that, right? Like
Hmm.
your if people want to ignore the t-shirt that you're wearing, they can. You're still bringing value. I think it's the
Hmm.
like any sort of solicitation
Yeah.
or creating brand awareness like makes people feel gross because we're all scared, insecure, and all that, and don't like being sold to ourselves. Okay,
Hmm.
so find your own line, but the stuff has to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but so that's the to me that's the easiest way is like going to meeting people, being nice, making suggestions, contributing to ideas,
Hmm.
any of this stuff like will trickle back to you.
Right. Here's the other thing. Like I think about swag a lot, right? So like I work at Stellar. We have tables, we sponsor things, and we have swag. But then I also walk around to all the other tables and pick up the swag I want. And I always feel like I don't say I always, I used to feel guilty just taking the swag to take the swag. Because maybe I'm not really going to use that plugin or I already have hosting or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, there you go. Was it Bluehost? The
Bluehost.
thing about swag is nobody wants to take their own swag back. So
Right.
even if I'm not going to use XYZ plugin, they would rather that pencil or pen or whatever water bottle be in my bag going home than
Yep.
their bag going home. Because even if at this point today, I have no intention of hosting with them, who knows next year when I pick up that water bottle and I'm drinking out of it and I think, I wonder how their hosting is. Maybe I should try it and see what I think.
Hmm.
Suddenly I am. But if I hadn't been holding that water bottle for a year, would never have even had that thought. So never be afraid to take the swag. I promise you, I do not want to take my swag home. I bought it for you, whoever you are, whether you use us or not. I bought
Yep.
enough to go around. Take my swag and think about us later. And that's
Yep.
really what we want to do. And that's why, yeah. So when they peel the sticker off and they stick it someplace, and that back goes in the garbage, maybe they will have done the QR code first
Yep.
and found the delight in what's going on omgimg.co. And I think that that's a cool thing.
Yep. This I got this. It's like this is like 8, 9 years old at this point. When
Yep.
fidget spinners were a thing, I have three of them.
Yep.
Because I am a fidgety person.
I have a
Um,
Wonder Woman one somewhere, but I don't know where she went.
but like I would not generally consider Bluehost as a host, but at some point the need may arise, or I may have a client who needs exactly the kind of hosting they offer, and that's
It's right on your
sitting there.
desk.
And
Yep.
if
He's
nothing
there.
else, I think of them fondly. And
Mhm.
previous to that, they were a faceless, nameless corporation who has a product that isn't for me. And
Mhm.
now I at least like a little bit think of them, are like
Yeah.
they did a cool thing once.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, notebooks, like the bound notebooks, I love them, but I will never write in them because
Right.
it's permanent. Like whatever you write in there is permanent. They are bound, right? But these
Hmm.
kind of notebooks, what did I write on there? Okay, yeah, I just wrote stuff, nothing that I have to be afraid of. but like these kind of notebooks that I can write on and tear. Yep. If I can tear the
Yep.
page out, I will use this whole thing right down. I will write on the backs of the covers and use that whole thing up, making notes in meetings and things like that.
Yep.
Because it's supposed to be disposable. I'm not supposed to be prosaic and have this bound book of poetry or my deepest journaling thoughts, right?
Right.
I need paper. And so those are the kinds of things that load me up. I will put 5 of those in my suitcase to bring home with me. So yeah,
But
there's an art
so
to swag.
so there's interesting conversations going on. So WordCamp US tickets just went on sale.
They
They did
did.
not ask for a t-shirt size. So there is speculation that they are not doing t-shirts this year, which honestly is great.
Works for
Like if
me.
I want one, offer them at cost,
Yep, exactly.
or let me get online and order them bespoke kind of thing. Um, but I think a lot of what we're talking about too is like in a time of economic dip, downturn worldwide, like there's a lot of people reporting in WordPress that are down generally speaking. Um, like we all need to be more creative, and it's kind of like the I think the perfect analogy is the like buy low, what is it? Buy low, sell high. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when everybody else is dumping a stock, that's when you buy. This is not
Right.
advice. I do not know what I'm talking about. I'm purely making an analogy. Is this is what people say. And so it's like right now is the time to be weirder. Whereas I think because most people are going to be more and more conservative in their advertising for
Mm-hmm.
fear of alienating somebody. And it's like, okay, well,
Right.
don't go use rude pictures or, be too weird. But in like swag needs to be different. Like t-shirts are t-shirts, fine,
Yeah.
but do something interesting. Still one of my favorite t-shirts was the Ninja Forms ones that was it's all red and it was just here they had
Yep.
the ninja sneak, peeking out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep looking for like weird, interesting. I love that you confirmed that people were excited about the holographic stickers because I'm like, this is just a sticker, but at least it's a little interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Those are the
and
ones that went fastest. And
right,
people tweeted them, right? You
right.
saw people tweeted them, yeah.
And so this is I'm putting throwing out there another free idea in the last 60 seconds of our call. So if you've made it this far and you happen to be a marketer, here's the free idea that I'm giving you. I offered it to Corey, and he's I think in a position now too you know too corporate or too whatever that he can't take advantage of it. But anyway, um, so he's helping set up a booth at WordCamp US, and I was thinking about all of the big booths at WordCamp US last year in DC, right? And they're
Yeah.
all super shiny, and you set foot into the quadrant, and you've got 8 people walking towards you, all with matching t-shirts. And so I was like, okay, the WordCamp US this year is in Portland, not Seattle, but go grunge. I was like, get there
Yeah.
2 days before, literally go to Salvation Army, like go to all
Flannel.
the
All the flannel.
yeah.
All the
And
beanies. Yep.
and then I sent him a picture of the basement from that 70s show
Yeah.
with like beat up old grandma's couch, rugs everywhere, bean bags. I was like, if you made a booth that looked even half like this, not only would
Retro.
everybody hang out there, but you would be the talk of the
Mm-hmm.
conference. Just if
Yep.
you do anything different. And so, and again, grunge being Seattle, not Portland, but same idea. Like just do
Yeah.
something different. And so I keep
Mm-hmm.
trying to come up with ideas um, for this. Like what's it doesn't have to be that outrageous, but I dare
Right.
people to do something. And I love that we're going to start doing these classifieds. Um, you know, but and it's like I don't know, we need to buy me a chicken costume or something so that when I end up presenting at a word camp, even if there's only 4 people there, all 4 people are going to take a picture of me and put it on Twitter because
Yeah.
who's this jackass in a banana costume or whatever I said, chicken costume.
Yeah.
And same with design. And it's like it takes more time. but it's and anyway, this is just something it's been on my
Yep.
mind for ages now, and I'm
I
struggling
love
with
it.
it.
That's
Um,
great. So before we go, and I know we're a few minutes over, but it was probably 2 years ago now. I was bored on a Friday night. I was literally laying in my bed because it was comfortable. My back hurt, but I was bored. And so I went on Twitter and I said, pick one and I will do that for you. And I think I had like, I'll roast you, I'll write a haiku about you, I'll write a limerick about you, or I'll give you a compliment. Like you had to pick one of those things. I spent 3 hours writing limericks and haiku and roasting people because they're like, pick me, right? I actually have a WordPress.com website that I put them all on because it was brilliant. I think it could be. I've seen at WordCamps where people have caricature artists.
yes,
What if you came up to our booth and we gave you a bespoke poem? I wrote a limerick on the spot for you. Like that would be so fun to me. Like you have somebody calligraphying it. So I write it, they do it, print
yep,
it off, and they hand it off to you. And now you have something from WordCamp, whatever, that is
yep,
completely bespoke just for you. That could be so fun. So you
yeah.
you made me think of that. So anyway.
I really like the I never did the caricature one, but I was like, again, at least it's something different, and something
Hmm.
unique. And they're definitely they're the booths that do the live printing,
Yeah.
which just seems like too much work, but good for them for trying something.
Yep.
Um, but like and one of the things that I have yet to integrate or figure out where and how, but Corey had the great suggestion of like, and you also said like on our blog, we need it like every image needs to look completely different, often terrible, but like to make the point of like here are all the things you can do.
Yes.
Um, and so yeah, I and Corey had that idea of like with social posts and um, essentially generating slides and content, but you obviously using generating images that using the plugin is sort of the point.
Yeah. Exactly.
So what immediately comes to mind is like, again, we're not, excuse me, we're not at the point yet of being able to buy tables at WordCamp US's,
But
um,
someday.
but at some point we're gonna have something to do with a picture. This is what I so like another you can get as of course it exists for weddings. You can get disposable cameras that
Mhm.
are branded, but they're $18 each. So
Yeah.
we'd blow our entire budget very, very quickly. And who needs a camera that contribute that ends up in landfill? But I love the idea of something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and having a table where it's like, okay, take a picture with Michelle. Here's the selfie, the necessary Michelle selfie, but then it gets incorporated into an OMG IMG image that then gets
Right.
used in such a way, or
What a great idea.
um,
I love it. I don't know that we made any decisions today, but we talked about some really cool stuff,
yeah,
which I'm excited about.
yeah,
Next week, I think we'll lead into more a little bit talking about the presentations that we have
yeah.
that you have coming up. We can maybe talk through that a little bit and what the thought process is. So if people are interested in seeing a little bit more of the other side of things, other than just our ideas that we just generate randomly. But
So
yeah,
one
uh,
one last data point I'll leave you with. I just looked.
yeah.
So we are still just have a trickle of traffic, like 5, 10, 20 people a day.
Hmm.
That classified got us 105 views on
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Friday to
That's
Saturday. Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah.
So, like do 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 wonk, like big spike.
All
So
right, we're gonna have to think of some more fun things to put in there then because people are gonna be watching. So sounds good. All right. Well, Corey, I don't think I've said it recently, but I am having so much fun working
good.
with you
Me
on
too.
this. We have good synergy, and I think we're at the very least we're gonna have fun and doing some marketing, and hopefully at the most we'll start to make some money with this plugin too. So we'll
Exactly.
start to continue
Exactly.
to whatever. Anyway, all right. We'll see.